So you make movies, huh?
I produce feature motion pictures. No TV.
Hi, I'm Johnny. This is Johnny Likes, the show where I talk about movies that I like. Today I'm talking about one of my dad's favorite movies, and he's been trying to get me to do a review on this since basically I started the channel. So this one goes out to him. Today, Johnny Likes Get Shorty.
You tell him, Johnny. You tell the world.
The plot for Get Shorty is fairly complicated, but it boils down to something like this. John Travolta plays Chili Palmer, a mob collections guy out of Miami, who finds himself trying to switch careers and become a movie producer in Los Angeles. This was adapted from the Elmore Leonard novel of the same name. Leonard wrote the kind of crime novels that involve tons of well-written characters with snappy dialogue and a complex but easy-to-follow story. Kind of like an American Guy Ritchie, but before Guy Ritchie was making movies. He's had many of his works adapted over the years, and this is one of the finest, right up there along with Out of Sight. I love this movie. I remember seeing it back when it first came out, and I actually bought it. I liked it so much, and I watched it a ton for a few years. But I haven't seen it in something like 20 years, so I was curious how well it would hold up, seeing it as an adult. In a nice, pleasant surprise, not only did it hold up, but it was better than I remembered it being. It's such a tightly wound story with such great dialogue and characters, with some genuinely laugh-out-loud moments. I'm only going to talk about one, and it's my favorite from the movie. It happens like 5 minutes in. There's not much spoilers going on here. So to set it up, Dennis Farina is playing Ray Barboni, aka Ray Bones. He's a peer of Chili Palmer's, and they don't really like each other all that much. Ray Bones has borrowed Palmer's jacket without Palmer knowing, so when Palmer finds out, he goes to retrieve the jacket, and it goes down like this.
I'll say any more than I have to, if that.
Yeah, just a minute. Oh, what are you fucking nuts? My nose, you fucking nuts.
I laugh every single time I see that scene, and just thinking about it does put a little smile on my face. I work in a restaurant, and we often talk about the scene where Danny DeVito's character, Martin Weir, who's a big-time actor, goes to a restaurant and specifically orders something not on the menu.
I feel like an omelet. Can you make an egg white omelet? But with shallots, but the shallots only slightly brown, very little olive oil. And why don't you bring one for the table? We'll pick on it. No, have...
Only for it to arrive and he leaves immediately without even eating it. Because that's just what you do when you're a big-time Hollywood actor. Despite none of us at my work having seen it in years, we all specifically remember that scene. Chili Palmer is cooler and smarter than you or me, and John Travolta absolutely nails this role.
I am looking at you.
Now look at me the way I'm looking at you. Put it in your eyes. You're mine, asshole, without saying it.
This was his first or second movie after his big comeback role in Pulp Fiction the year before, and he's absolutely at the height of his powers. His story was kind of interesting to me because I was 11 or 12 when this came out, so I hadn't watched him fall out of favor in the 80s. To me, he was just this actor who used to be big and then wasn't, and now he's big again. It's also interesting because he only kind of kept his A-lister status for another 10 or so years. And then he started the cycle all over again. Now you mainly see him in geezer teasers, which are basically clickbait movies. The general idea is you put an actor who used to be big and famous on the cover of your dud of a film and hope that people click and watch it on streaming. The cast and direction in this was great. Director Barry Sonnenfeld knew how to work with all these superb actors and how to get just the right level of humor out of all of them. Gene Hackman is one of my favorite actors of all time, and it was a pleasure to see him play against his typical gruff, tough guy persona, and instead be a putsy B-movie director.
Oh! Hey, here it is right here. This is the project. Mr. Lovejoy.
It's a great and underrated performance. Sorry, I was just thinking about him getting his face stepped on later on in the movie.
Don't you puke on my shoes, Harry.
Anyway, Rene Russo is wonderful as the whip-smart, diamond-in-the-rough B-movie scream queen, Karen Flores. Danny DeVito was cutting as the A-list big Hollywood actor, Martin Weir.
I can actually get into their heads. I can actually think the way those guys do. Get inside.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'm one of those guys. What am I thinking?
And we also got some memorable performances from James Gandolfini as Bear, stuntman / bodyguard.
Throws things out I don't want.
I think you ought to turn around and go back to Miami.
You're a stuntman, huh?
Yeah.
You any good?
And Delroy Lindo is an LA mobster who's kind of in the same boat as Chili. He wants to break into producing movies. Oh, also Dennis Farina plays basically the same guy he always does, which is a mob guy with a big mouth. Sometimes he plays a cop with a big mouth, but it's one of the two. You might not expect it in a comedy like this, but there was a few really cool shots cinematography-wise. The main one that comes to mind is when we're introduced to Delroy Lindo's character at the airport. This is the most show-offy one in the movie, and it goes way harder than necessary. But I thought it was a fitting touch to have the visual element be as cool and confident as the rest of the movie was. The music in this movie sounds cliche at this point. But this was the first movie in the 90s, at least to my recollection, where they had that kind of cool, smooth, funky jazz sound. Heist movies over the next decade would use variations on Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs, until it became a trope. But this was the first to do it, and it works very well throughout. If you would have asked me to rate this before my most recent viewing, I probably would have said 4 out of 5. But after the most recent watch, I started to think about how good everything about it really is. The pacing, the script and story, the performances, the music, and even the cinematography and costumes. It's one of those lightning in a bottle movies where everything that they do just works and works very well. Which is the reason I'm actually going to bump this up to a 5 out of 5. Which is something that I didn't expect to be doing, but I think it is deserving considering how well done everything is that they set out to do. So what do you guys think of Get Shorty? Am I rating it a bit too high? Maybe. There's gotta be some Get Shorty lovers out there. I think it should go without saying, John Travolta's personal life and his professional work should stay very separate. Nonetheless, I still think he's great in this. Yeah, while you're here, give me a like, give me a subscribe. It's quick, free, relatively painless. Plus it helps me out. Thanks for watching me talk about movies for a little bit, and you can tune in next time to see what else Johnny likes.